So a couple minutes ago, I came across what's likely one of the most disturbing videos that I've seen thus far. I have plans to get into other subject matters, etc., but this came up on my feed, and there was no way for me to just simply ignore this. Now, the reason it's disturbing for me is because of what this means utterly. What it shows me is actually happening in the mainstream narrative, and more specifically when it comes to our kids, our younger brothers and sisters and nephews and, daughters and sons, etc., grandkids even. I'm going to go ahead and play the clip out and then give the context on the other side. It is a very short clip, no longer than 10 seconds, so just bear with me.
Bye-bye, Israel!
Okay. I don't know. Is it sound? Okay. Let me turn the sound on. We might want to do that. Okay. Give me a second. All right. Yeah, we're good to go.
Israel! Bye-bye, Israel! Bye-bye!
I would ask myself, which is, what the hell was that clip? Fortunately, I have a little bit of insight into what that is. Essentially, iShowSpeed has been, how do I put this? He has chosen a side. He's picked a side based off of zero actual concrete information, but instead the mainstream narrative, whatever has been cool to go along with. I don't know if he's paid, but I do know that he has, gone to the UAE, Saudi Arabia, which is ironic because if you saw that video, you'd actually notice that he wasn't technically hitting Israel. He thought he was, but these aren't the brightest bulbs in the light shop. He was actually hitting closer to probably Saudi Arabia itself, a place that he claims to have quite an affinity and a love for. So anyway, we're not dealing with the brightest people. We never claim to be dealing with intellect, but that doesn't matter. I've heard this term or this phrase that Israel has been losing the PR war. And I think it's deeper than just that. It's the fact that the jihadists, the Islamic Brotherhood, however you want to quantify them, have been so massively influential in the digital space. They have invested most of their time, energy, and attention into messaging because that's all they can essentially stand on, right? When you are corrupted, when you are the perpetrator and you want to be seen as a victim, all you have is a story. If you hit somebody in the nose or in the mouth, right, and you want to come away as the one who was perpetrated, all you have is your story that you made up. And that's what they have been excellent. The only thing I can give them real credit for, and kudos to them, is that they have won that to the point where they have this kid, iShowSpeed, one of the most influential young people that has ever existed, has a wider reach than probably any 20-year-old on the planet, talking about destroying a nation that has already been under threat, of saying things and having a viewpoint that the little mustache man would have, let alone a young black American. And if you know the history, that confounds you in a different way, right? Wait, didn't the Jews stand with black folks throughout civil rights? Yeah. We've come a long way from MLK stating that he was a open Zionist, believing in not just an Israeli state, but for the thriving of those people. So I wanted to bring this up for myself to see how much he had donated. So allegedly, well, not allegedly what? It says it right here. It's public domain. He has donated $50,000 in support of Palestine in Gaza in June 2024. Who knows how much more money he's given, right? But he has donated $50,000. Now, this is a kid who lives in a bubble now, right? He lives in the same sort of bubble that the Holly weirdos live in. Though he goes out and streams and is, he interacts and engages with everyday people. This is a multi-billion-dollar brand we're talking about in iShowSpeed. So everywhere he goes, he's going to have a sanitized version. Let's say they take him to the Gaza Strip. They're going to show him the version they need to show him in order to sell the narrative and to sell the story. And, this is something that Israel's been blamed for, right? The AIPAC is being blamed. You take all the politicians and the influencers and you want to take them to Israel so you can sway them. They usually want to do that because they understand that if people actually saw what it was like, then they would create a different, perspective and assumption. It's not like when you take them to North Korea and, they have these makeshift like grocery stores or whatever, like you saw in the movie, The Interview, or Xi Jinping comes to California and Gavin Newsom just completely destroys all the encampments and makes it, squeaky clean, cleans all the human feces off of the streets. So they have sold him an image. He's gone to the UAE, Saudi Arabia, a lot of these Arabic nations that have created a veneer of wealth for themselves. And he believes that these are the people they have, coddled and coerced and babied him and treated him as a king. And, oh my goodness, these amazing people. This is Islam. Oh my goodness. Now, little would he know that if he be a Christian, I believe he claims to be, I'm not quite sure about that one. Is he? Let me see, actually. We got Google for a reason. Christian. Is he claimed to be Christian? Oh, okay. He is not. Well, denies Jesus Christ. Okay, well, that's on him. So he does not claim to be a Christian, but he is still a black American or an American overall. The place he would be safest throughout the entirety of the Middle East outside of his celebrity status would be Israel. If he was just the everyday black person, these are the facts. Right? He could likely not go outside those border walls without facing some sort of, either if it's real life discrimination or even worse off, if they find out that he is not a Muslim, unless he has converted to Islam, then, that's a whole nother story and a whole nother complexity. But the reason I felt that this was so urgent, I stopped everything else I'm doing and I'm like, what the is going on here? Turn the damn camera on, get into it, is because influence matters, story matters more than anything else. In the age of information, in the age simultaneously of disinformation, misinformation, your story and the amount of people you can essentially tell your story to or convince of your story is going to be more important than the truth. And that's why I do my best to couple the two, right? Tell the story as frequently as you can to as many people, but make sure it's aligned with the actual truth. The thing is, we live in a day and age where you can live in a silo, an echo chamber where there is the lie. That's where probably, this young boy or young man, he's not a boy anymore, he's 20 years old now, couldn't tell the difference with the behavior of this individual. But this young man has lived in that silo, in that echo chamber since he was, a minor. Per se, since he was 16, 17 years old, he's probably been exposed to this sort of stuff. And so, here comes October 7th and he's already kind of in those circles and hearing the same sort of information. And, people start to pick a side and he goes gung ho on one side to the point where now on camera, he's talking about destroying an entire people group. Now, I was curious to see what the response and the reaction was from the people. This is something I used to do in some of my earlier videos. Let's see. So, this is actually with an article that reads, he said, "Free Palestine and F Israel." That's what he said. And yeah, he's a kid. He's off the cuff. He says whatever he wants, blase, blase, blah. But things have real life consequences. And unfortunately, these type of people, they don't have to necessarily, they don't have to see those consequences in real life. And so they can get to say whatever they want, do whatever they want. And, it's a joke. It's whatever. Those kids are listening. All it takes is one to go carry out what happened to, the young couple outside of, I believe it was a museum or the embassy in D.C. At least they work for the embassy. The two young Jewish kids who were about to get married, or young adults, right? Look at this here. So there's the original video. So let's see. Corey Walker. That's the one I liked originally. My guess is that he just scrolls TikTok and sees destruction in Gaza like 97% of these Zoomers or Gen Zers. And he likely has an extremely superficial understanding of Israel, Palestine. He also did CCP propaganda videos. Yeah. So I doubt he has much geographic knowledge in general. I'll pay to see him read a page out of a Goosebumps book out loud. Yeah. I think a lot of his core education was probably missed because he was doing his thing. He was taking off in his career. Bro, damn, crazy, bruh. No way, dude. Bro has probably never read a book in his life. This would be pretty difficult ask for the vast majority of folks. So I think this is a response to this guy saying, I would pay to hear Speed attempt to describe the history of Israel, Palestine. Let me go to the actual article. That's what I want to see. Look, $50,000 given. Okay, iShowSpeed has funded terror. So I said, F iShowSpeed, F Pally. iShowSpeed in his clown era. Facts. Not going to lie, keep that opinion to yourself as a celebrity. Who? Exactly. Here is his $50,000. Where his $50,000 will end up in a safe in a Hamas tunnel. Facts. LMAO, Palestine and Israel governments are both corrupt-ish. Rather support neither. I mean, here's the thing. There's this conversation of the lesser two evils. It's always the lesser two evils. No, sometimes it is good versus evil. Sometimes it's right versus wrong. Sometimes it is lesser two evils. And again, I don't know every member of the Israeli government. I don't know one personally. I don't. I just know the response of, the prime minister, the leader who said, okay, we have been attacked in this way. Worst attack since, 1940s. So, yeah, we're going to act on this. That's what I know for a fact. And that right there, yeah, that right there seems to be a response, if you catch what I'm throwing. So, yeah, this conversation, I get it. We want to be nuanced in all things, etc. But sometimes there is right and wrong. Sometimes there's a lie and the truth. He just got himself canceled. Damn. Well, we'll see. And this is the funny thing, right? They say, well, if you say anything about the Jews, it's over for yous. No, people have built entire careers off of this. They're living, breathing examples. It's the mainstream narrative is to be anti-Jew, right? It's hip. It's trendy to be pro-Palestine. That's the mainstream narrative. So, yeah, people made careers, and likely what would happen, he has to apologize. See, the Jews control the world because he had to apologize. Imagine wishing that upon any other country, any other nation, in any context. The sort of response and retaliation you would get. Okay, what do we have here? Low-level moron. Well, yeah, at least we have some intelligent people in the chat. Who cares what a clown does? F them both. Basically supporting terror, funding terror now. Is he going to show his tiny wee-wee? They called him iShowMeat. I guess it was an incident there. W iShowSpeed. Look at this. I'm very curious who this is. Big. Okay. Yep. Who would have thunk it? Who would have thunk it? Who would have thunk it? FYI, Mr. Big Wavu, you would be next on Hamas's list. He doesn't know a damn thing about either Palestine or Israel. LMFAO. Speed fell for the Pally propaganda. Facts. Career over. Yeah, so this seems gross, criminal, just another dumb guy full of money. Okay, blah, blah, blah. Nobody cares. He's getting himself canceled, etc. Yeah. I mean, the young man is supporting terror, not just in, his monetary, through monetary means, but he's doing so now actively in his streams. If this is a crazy statement to make, I understand that. But this, oh, sorry, I didn't know my face was covering. Let me run that back one more time so you can see his face.
Bye-bye, Israel! Bye-bye!
Yeah. And that's going to be used as a meme by all these kids. By the way, look at that. 55,000 people watching just on YouTube Live. That's a crazy number, by the way. And he's got, again, probably millions on Twitch and, every other platform that he's on. So, yeah, YouTube, owned by the Jews, I guess, has no problem with that at all. I guess that's okay to say. I can't say the little mustache man's actual name on here. I can't say the schmatzi, the actual word. I can't say those things on here, but I guess you can, show what he missed Israel, but what he believes to be Israel being blown out or off of the map, being blown into oblivion. There's real life consequences and real life ramifications. There are going to be kids watching this stuff and they're going to look to act things out. That's just the reality. We don't like to look at that. We like to pretend it's otherwise. We like to think that things just brush over. But guess what? President Trump was standing on that stage, Butler, Pennsylvania, I believe it was July 13, 2024, and almost had his life taken from him because somebody was listening to the mainstream propaganda and decided that, well, this guy has to go. That's what that was. That's the story. Now, we can get into, well, the government was trying to take him out, the lefties, et cetera, or the leftist government, et cetera. Yeah, we can get into that. But what we do know is that there were whack jobs who all they needed was just the go, and they would go. And that's why we have incidences taking place on college campuses where these students, just on the basis of their Jewishness, are being attacked. I hate bullies. That's why I go so crazy about these things. I hate a bully. I hated seeing white folks bullied by black folks as much as I hated seeing as a kid black folks bullied by white folks or anybody else. Seeing the little kid bullied by the bigger kid. I hated it. Seeing the girl bullied by the boys and vice versa. I hate a bully. I can't stand it. I hate a lie. I hate a hypocrite. And so when you combine all of those, you're going to find me there. You're going to find me there. iShowSpeed. Absolutely amazing. He will likely wake up one day as an adult, and real life has settled in a little bit and realize that he was a part of the problem. Like, I can't sit here and pretend I know what's going to come. Do I think that Churchill, FDR, some of these individuals who are in power, do I think they knew that there was going to be, a little mustache man, that there was going to be this imminent threat out in, Eastern Europe per se? Some would say Central Europe. Do you think they knew this? Or the extent? Do you think they knew that, well, the words are they just words, or are they going to lead? I would say that most people didn't. Most people couldn't even fathom it. Most people couldn't fathom September the 11th before it happened. They couldn't even, it wouldn't even, except for obviously, the Oklahoma City bomber, right? Besides that, and that was a complete shell shock on the entire country. To think that 3,000 plus people would lose their lives due to radical jihadism. And now that narrative is being blamed on the Jew as well, of course. American government, again, I'm not going to say neither here or there. But what I do know for a fact is that it was a jihadist intention to target, pillars of Western civilization. And they did exactly that. That did happen. And if we want to rewrite that history as well, then you're opening yourself up for number 2. And, again, this ain't a 12-year-old, 13, 15-year-old we're dealing with. iShow is now a 20-year-old young man. He's able to make other decisions, monetary decisions. He's able to make, he can purchase a home. He can do all these sorts of things. He should be liable for the words that he says and the messages he puts out. Mr. Beast, I don't know his politics, and that's good. I think with celebrities, you're better off without us knowing, or, when you stand in a place of, let's say, a Gal Gadot, whoever it may be, right? Your people specifically are being targeted. Like, yeah, you stand up and say something. You be bold about it. In the same way, you have black folks back in the times of Jim Crow. Black activists, per se, the James Browns of the world and the Muhammad Alis of the world, or whoever else it may be. When it's time to stand up and speak up, then do so, rightfully so. Just make sure you're on the right side of the conversation, though, because otherwise, you're in very dangerous territory. That's what I'm going to say to you. As a fellow creator, I know I'm fractals of a fractal of what you got going on, but tread very, very lightly around these sorts of things. Very, very lightly. It took me months to get to the point where I could finally feel comfortable enough to even just make the first video about this. Some people say, well, you just, you turned into this because this, you want to make dollars off of AdSense and you're paid off. And well, okay, you say what you will. But I was terrified of coming out the conservative closet. And at this extent, I had to make sure I knew my own perspective, but as well as the actual conversation and then, the argument per se. And when it came to this, I had to know like I know to say, you better not be wrong on this one. Because if you're going to go there, you better not be wrong. And I knew like I knew. I'm not pretending or affirming to be some geopolitical expert or whatever it may be. I'm not going to sit here and pretend I know more than the people who are there about their lived experience. But I will say I know right from wrong. I know the lie from the truth at the very least. So appreciate y'all. Till the next time. Peace. Appreciate you guys for tuning in. Now, if you'd like to stay around, make sure to click that little subscribe button down there. Or you can show some love by going to the description below and clicking on the button titled Buy Me a Coffee. Leave a little something there, or click on the Cash App. Leave a little something here. Till the next time. Peace. Aquarius. Where?
I've been up for hours, I've been up for days, you staring at the ceiling, I've been counting strays, you I've been in my feelings, I've been out of mind, I've been getting visions of the other kind. I've been up for weeks, I'm in the counting blessings over counting sheep. I can never be the type to limit when it comes to me. I used to be the pleaser for the people, I ain't even